Good morning, guys. So Parafilm asked on my previous video why I plant all of my trees so close together. And that is a loaded question, and I'm happy to answer it. I'm just hoping that I can answer it in its entirety. It's just there's just there's just so much in that question, and let me see if I can answer as much as I can. So let's get started. So I'm gonna try to explain this as much as I can and as simple as I can. So what you're seeing here is a combination of a lot of concepts. You have permaculture with the plant guilds, right? Jeff Lawton talks about using alley cropping, using a bunch of support trees. Matter of fact, about 95% of your first plantings of your food forest should be support trees because they develop the soil, they develop the canopy, they develop an environment that is conducive to you growing fruit trees. And you also have, concepts from regenerative agriculture, Dr. Elaine Ingham with soil science, Jeff Lowenfels when it comes to teaming with microbes, right? So it seems that there's enough nutrients in the soil and in the air, right? The atmosphere. You got atmospheric nitrogen, you got carbon. And all of these plants, these are all solar panels. All of this are solar panels, and they create energy. They create sugars. And those sugars, some of that they use as root exudates. So they take all of that energy, they take the sugars and whatnot, and they deposit it into the soil. And why do they do that? They try to attract and farm beneficial microbes. So these microbes, like say they need boron, or say they need sulfur, or they need some kind of micronutrients or something, they will attract that particular microbe, whether it would be bacteria or fungi, and they track it into the root zone. And those miners will eventually die off or get eaten by a higher level microbe, perhaps a protozoa or whatnot. That microbe that has mined the nutrients, once it dies, it allows that nutrient that it ate or held or whatever becomes available to the tree or the plant. And so plants, they form these beneficial synergistic partnerships with the microbes to get what they need from the soil. And that's the reason why we are feeding the microbes and rather than feeding the plants directly. Because if we're going through the traditional way and fertilizing our trees, it actually destroys that that plant rhizophagy cycle, right, where the plants and the microbes have this beneficial teamwork. So if you're feeding your soil with synthetic synthetic fertilizer, you might be actually breaking that teamwork, because like, hey, the plant's like, I don't need you, right? Why, they're gonna take the easy way. I'm getting my nutrients. Why do I need you? Why do I need to feed you? Why do I need to farm you? I got it easy, right? That is kind of like the basic concept that at least the basic of my understanding of soil science at this time. And so what's important here, why we're densely planting, is partly for the development of root exudates. All these solar panels and different canopy layers. You have the higher canopy, you got the medium canopy, you got the lower canopy, and the ground covers. All of that's developed. All of that is producing energy that's feeding the soil microbiology, and then it's also creating necromass. This is necromass right here. It's going to turn into necromass that's going to feed those microbes. And by planting densely, you're also shading the soils. So you're preventing soil evaporation, you're preventing the sun from just baking the soil, baking the dirt. Baking the soil. And so what we're doing is we're creating an environment conducive to soil microbiology. And let me show you what can happen when you create these types of environment. So here, look at this chop and drop, right? All of these were like probably 3 years worth of chop and drop, and just look at that. See, you got germination right there. This is what you want. Okay, see how I'm able to dig right here? I don't want to dig too much, but it's just, that's soil, guys. That is feeding the soil microbiology, and that microbiology is feeding our system, not us. And this is the dirt right here, same dirt. Okay, look at this. It's hard. Okay, what do we see right here? It's hard. Okay, and this is really hard. See, this one's actually we actually covered this whole thing with wood chips at some point, and so it was actually harder than this. This ground actually split, right? But anyways, let's get back to business. So why dense planting? Okay, so we have this layer right here, this Tithonia. It's shading my valuable fruit trees, and this ground cover is protecting the soil, creating necromass, and it's also prolific and giving us fruit. This right here, this castor bean, not only is providing shelter for our young trees, it's also creating an environment down there where gophers do not like. Now, gophers might still be around this area, but anywhere I plant this castor bean, and there's another plant like, let me show you, other plants like this lavender, and this new addition right here. I believe this is a gopher spurge. They they repel gophers, which is a huge problem here. We still got to protect our trees with gopher baskets, but they seem to not show up where these plants are planted, especially in this area where we have these huge castor beans, like this one right here. They don't come to this area. And then we also have things like this higher canopy layer, and some fruit trees do prefer to be in a dapple shade environment, like this pawpaw and this coffee right here. And so we're actually going to put another mango tree right there, and these mango trees will eventually become the canopy layer. I want it to get as big as that. I mean, I don't want it to get 40 feet. And in California, grafted mango trees are not going to grow that tall. It's probably going to be more realistic, like 8 to 15 feet. And so we can control the canopy, right? We can control it. Right here, this banana is here protecting this young mango tree, and it's protecting my grafts. And especially when you look at, let me see, let's go right here. Like these grafts right here needs a little bit of protection right there, because that right there, that's not out of the woods yet. It needs to harden those leaves. Otherwise, if we get hot, like extreme heat, and it's getting beaten down by the sun, it can actually lose those leaves right there. And so you have this it's canopy layer of castor bean that's protecting and shading it in the meantime. And these bananas, I mean, once this tree gets big enough, this is sacrificial. I mean, yeah, we got it as a fruiting plant. At some point, when I have another mango tree right there, once it gets big enough and it gets in the way, we'll just use it as a chop and drop, right? So some of these plants are sacrificial. The mango trees are not going to produce for us for at least 5 years, and probably won't get to full production until about 8 to 10 years. So that's a long time. In the meantime, we have these persimmons, right, that could fruit within a few years. We have strawberries that's going to fruit for us right away. We have papayas, right, that's going to fruit for us right away. As you can see, we've got a layer of papayas that's up there. That it's it got beaten down by the cold. It doesn't like the cold, and so the papayas have a tendency to lose their leaves during the winter, and they recover in the summer. And this right here is going to give us fruit right away, right? This pomegranate. You gotta have fruit from the bananas, from the blackberries. And this is a ground cover layer right here, this pineapple that hopefully we'll get fruit from. And these pigeon peas, while they're support plants, you can actually eat the pods. Here's blackberries that we've been eating. Oh, here's one right here. Ooh, right there, right? You have tomatoes that we can eat. Some vegetables that you can plant all around. This lemon guava can be an understory, and you can keep it pretty short. And in the meantime, why not bring in some flowering plants, flowering trees? You got the butterfly bush. You have this lavender. You got we're trying to put in geraniums around here, and so densely planting. And then look at this tree collard. It's food that you can have right now while kind of shading the fruit trees. Right now, this one right here we need to kind of clear, so it's just like that. See, needs a little bit more sun, and there you go. We'll come in here, walk daily, and then just chop and drop. So we got necromas, right? And then we got this yellow point sienna. It's gonna bring in beneficials. It's gonna bring in the bees and the pollinators. Same thing with this borage plant. And these mandarins or oranges, they can actually handle part shade, and they can fruit in partial shade. So they can actually be a medium understory tree. And so right here we have these two mangoes. I think the spacing from between these are about, I would say, 12 to 15 feet. We can actually plant a fruit tree right here, right? We can put like a coffee and a few other things while keeping this wonderful ground cover layer of Pepino Dolce. And dense planting like this actually helps with creating microclimates. For instance, if you're trying to grow ultra tropicals, that's kind of like this guanabana or soursop, where they hate it. They'll actually die if it gets windy when temperatures are below 40. They can actually die. And all of this, in fact, it needs a lot more microclimate. We need to plant more stuff right there just to prevent the wind from damaging this soursop. Right here is, I guess you could still consider high density. Now, this one needs a lot more, in my opinion. It's missing the ground cover layer and medium strata. So we have this fruiting cherimoyas. You have this carob tree as a high canopy layer. That's nitrogen fixing, and it's giving it a little bit of dapple shade to these plants. And we're using actually this, we're pollarding it, cutting it at the top and using it as mulch. And we're actually missing that layer right here because avocados need shade in the summer. Here we got to 113 degrees last year, and they get burnt, right? They get these avocados, they get sunburnt. And so let me show you what we're doing with high density to help with the avocados. So we have these figs right here, and we have the tithonia that is protecting this bacon avocado right there. And it'll fill in more on this side. The sun comes from that way and sets over there. And so it'll get some sun, some dapple shade. And if it gets too shaded, we can always, trim the trees to give it a little bit more sun if needed. This one right here could, this gem avocado right here could benefit from a little bit of shade on this side. So we got an ash tree that's planted right there. We got another ash tree that's planted right there. That's a young tree that hopefully will grow quickly. So we have these young avocado here, this surprise, protected by this canopy right here. And all of these guys, they produce fruit. So we got this, we got the mulberries, we got the moringa right here, and we have this flowering shrub right there. Right here we have a fruiting cherry tree right next to a support ash tree. And more ash, more tithonia and tree collards. And I'm missing the ground cover, but we're raking in the leaves, and as you can see, we're adding a lot more mulch. So this is mulch that we added yesterday. So we have two of these persimmon trees right here that's close together, fruiting together, and I don't do anything to it. And these guys, they've been fruiting every year for the last 3 to 4 years. You have this cherimoya tree that's being protected, at least the soil is being protected by this pride of Madeira. And this pride of Madeira creates these necromasts right here. Okay, so, and then what's missing there is the ground cover of perhaps corapia. And so we got this corapia that's planted right here. And we need more mulch producers, leaf litter producers. So we got more ash trees that's planted. Another example of dense planting is we're actually planted more of this willow acacia to produce more leaf litter, because we're missing, all of that wood chip that we put in truckloads and truckloads of wood chips. They all disappeared. And so we need leaf production to develop a continuous source of mulch. So here is our page mandarin. I believe this is a page mandarin. And right next to it, is it's a grapevine, and look, it's fruiting. I do not fertilize, guys, right here. Okay, so here is a cherimoya that's flowering right here, and more grapes, and we have these pigeon peas. So these pods, we can harvest this to produce as seeds for, to create more plants, or we can use this to eat. So we can soak these like regular beans right here. That's a dry bean, or dry pea, and then we'll cook it with our rice, or make hummus, or whatever we want to do. So here's another example of a high density planting. We have our cherry of the Rio Grande that's fruiting. That's fairly close to, it's about maybe 8 to 10 feet away from this fruiting longan. It's about 6 to 8 feet away from this rose apple. And all throughout this here, we have right next to it another cherry. This is a Suriname. It fruits a lot, and it's right next to it. So that one is like kind of an understory. And right here we have a cotton tree, and we have a wax jambu that's fruiting. Now this one didn't fruit that much. Probably just needs more time, or I need to mulch a lot more. Probably just needs a little bit more water. And then we have this invasive California pepper tree, and we're using it as a chop and drop canopy layer, right? And then right next to it is another longan that's about to fruit, and this this guava tree that has gotten attacked by the gophers recently, and the mango tree right there that's pretty young, right next to another pepper tree, another understory shrub layer, or even like a medium tree layer of Suriname cherry next to a Barbados that we're gonna cut down and turn into put mangoes. So the coffee hasn't kicked in yet, so I'm hoping that kind of gives you a little bit of a basic understanding of what I understand, because kind of like the more you do this type of thing, or the more you get to know something, the more you realize you don't know. And here's another one right here. This is a strawberry guava producing right on a shade of dew-hot tree and an ash tree. So you can see the high density planting all throughout this area, and I do not fertilize any of these. All right, guys, if you have more questions, let me know.